Hi, everybody. It's great to be back with you and bringing back some additional podcasts as we speak with our friends in the industry, our clients, our customers, and also our staff. We're bringing some really good, rich information to you about what's taking place in the industry and how it can benefit you as well. My name is Jay Ellenby, President, Safe Harbors Business Travel, and I'm excited to bring a whole new series of podcasts to you. Enjoy the show and have fun, and let me know if you have any other ideas of future podcasts.
Welcome to Flight Crew with Jay Ellenby.
We are back. We also have Heather Collins with us. She is the Vice President of Sales of Enterprise. I'm not going to call it Holdings because it is Enterprise. Yeah, it is Enterprise Holdings. That's why I'm so confused all the time. You guys changed the
Mobility.
name. Mobility. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And so thank you for correcting me on that because I'm trying to keep up with that. You know, our industry is always changing. So, but I'm very excited to introduce Heather today and talk about what's going on with enterprise mobility. And Vice President of Sales, Heather, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Jay. It's a pleasure.
Tell us, what do you do? What do you do? What is your job? I know you've been in sales with Enterprise forever, but tell us what's a day in the life of Heather Collins at Enterprise?
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends on the day, right? So I've been with Enterprise for 26 years. I started when it was not the mobility company that it is today. And on any given day, I really work with a team of people. I am super grateful and blessed to work with amazing sales professionals that are around me. And we work with our customers and our partners to really better equip them with mobility solutions to moving product and people to get them to where they need to go. So that's all we do is we really consult our customers on what they need for their organizations to be a really good mobility partner for them.
Great way to kick it off for my next question or my next comment, actually. You work with great people. You mentioned that. So in working with great people, that's what I've always admired by Enterprise is that it's your culture. And in our conversation the other day, I mentioned this, that, maybe 15, 20 years ago, Enterprise certainly was known as the company that was offsite. And us as a corporate travel management company, you know, corporate travelers didn't always want to travel. Well, when they travel, they don't want to always go off site. You have completely flipped the script and you are right there with corporations. You've been doing that for a number of years now. So I'm not saying this is overnight, but you've completely flipped the script and you are the go-to in many cases for when it comes to corporate travelers, but, national rent-a-car enterprise and so on. But really where I was going with my comment is what I've always admired about enterprise is your culture. You have a culture that's really, it's a top down, bottom up type of culture that really does care about the people that you have. And one last thing I'll comment to that is I know whenever I have anyone who is either graduating from college or in college, first thing I'll say to them is check out Enterprise because you have the world class training program, and it's a great way to get involved in the industry. So, you want to talk about that a little bit about your culture? It just doesn't happen overnight. What did you guys do?
Yeah, so I think it started with Jack, right? When Jack opened the doors of Enterprise, we were not the mobility giant that we are today. We were running really a leasing company out of the bottom of a Cadillac dealership almost 70 years ago. In his philosophy, we are still a family-owned company. We are a family-run company. We're on, generation 3. So we've only had 4 CEOs, which is absolutely crazy when you really think about, stacking that up against even major companies across the board outside of the mobility space. So our culture comes from Jack, and it was really his philosophy was you need to take care of your customers and your people first, and everything else will follow. And that is really our North Star. And when you look at, now Chrissy leading the organization, but from our senior leaders on down, it's really about taking care of each other and taking care of the customer and making sure that we're having a little bit of fun while we do it. And focusing not only on our people, but also the communities that we operate in. And when I talk to customers and try and explain the differences, we're just a little bit different. We are a very big, different type of company. And the other unique thing is that 95% of the people that our customers are dealing with our start, like, whether it's me or anybody else in senior leadership, we started in the management training program. So if you met me 26 years ago, I was probably washing the car, right? I was washing cars, picking up customers, going to the local body shop, knocking on the door saying, "Hey, I'm ready with your vehicle." And that's how everybody started, including Chrissy. So that learning the business is huge. And it's a great place to start a career. It's also a great place, to end a career. I'll retire with Enterprise one day. And I love the people, and that is a contagious piece that I think makes us really special because we're just passionate about people, both our own people and our customers.
It is pretty remarkable. I mean, how many companies today can you say you started out and you ended with the same company in today's
Yeah.
environment?
Although I started when I was 5 based on how I identify as a 30-year-old.
Of course. I'm not going to
Right.
doubt. Not going
Right.
to doubt that at all. Yeah. The other story I love about Enterprise is I'm sure you know where the name came from, right?
Yep.
Please share.
For sure. So, when Jack started the company, before he started Enterprise, he was in World War II and he flew off the USS Enterprise. So that is where Enterprise got its name, off of the USS Enterprise. So very proud of not only our heritage with Jack and the way the company started, but also our military roots. And that is something that we're very passionate about is serving our veterans and that piece. So very, excited. People don't know that. So we always try and share that as a fun fact when we talk to people.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. That's something always connected with me because my background as well is Navy. And I served aboard the USS America aircraft carrier. So a little bit of connection to me as well.
So funny, Jay. My mom was 30 years in the Navy. She retired as a Navy captain, and when I told her that I was coming to work at Enterprise Rent a Car, she was like, "Excuse me, what?" And now she doesn't say that anymore. She obviously understands. Back in the day, we were not nearly the company that we are today. Back then, we were still applying for jobs, and there was no internet, and you were using a newspaper. So yeah, kind of fun.
How about so she was expecting you to go in the Navy as well?
No, well, I went to school to be a teacher, and then I decided I didn't want to teach anymore. And there was no, push to, join the Navy. But I grew up in that Navy military world, so yes, that's served me well at Enterprise.
Wow, very cool. Thanks for sharing. And like I said, I love the connection. I love how the name came about. So, what's the long term? What's the long term strategy for Enterprise?
Yeah, I think the long-term strategy for enterprise is ever evolving, right? Our goal is to be the best transportation mobility partner in the world. And when you look at kind of where the company started and how it's evolved, we are continuing to evolve. So what that looks like in 20 years is probably going to be very different than it looked like 10 years ago. But we are going to evolve by listening to our customers and figuring out what they need, and then making sure that we align our business to make sure that we're benefiting the customers and what they need as far as a mobility provider.
So, what would you say are the trends today when it comes to rental cars?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the trends, and I'll start with kind of coming out of COVID, the OEMs or the manufacturers that produce our cars are doing things a little bit differently. So they're, obviously making larger vehicles. The cars are much smarter than they used to be, but that's obviously coming at a rising cost of not only, the automobile itself, but also repairs. So when you look at the positive of the technology is obviously accidents are less because there's so many more safety features on the vehicle. And they darn near drive themselves. In some case, they do. But then on the flip side of that is how do we use that technology to have a better customer service experience? So when you look at, the connected car in particular, one of the things that we used to have to do is actually check the gas and the mileage. Now the car actually will feed that into our system, which again, it just makes the customer transaction faster, which is huge. So when you look at how technology is getting played into these vehicles and what we're doing with our partnerships with the OEMs to get the technology to use it to our advantage to make that customer service experience better, those are some of the things that I think are just going to continue. I think, obviously the cars are going to continue to be smarter, more fuel efficient, things like that. But it's exciting because it's how do we best use that to make the customer experience better?
So it's interesting. I know when I do return a car,
Mhm.
I often just walk away. I walk away, and next thing I'm getting an email to me, and everybody's good about it. It's no problem. It makes it so easy,
Yes.
because you have the technology, you can do it, you can process it very quickly. So I'll look at my phone as I'm walking, bouncing off of people going through the terminal because I'm staring at my phone, and there's that email. There's the email, the receipt that I just received from the car rental. So You're spot on. The technology's there and it's accurate.
Yep. People want things faster, right? That's just the world that we live in, and technology is allowing us to do that. And then make sure that the person that's behind it is a great individual. So if you need the interaction, we're great at doing that. But how do you make it faster for the traveler for sure?
So, what challenges do you see coming up or even today?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the world in general, right? I mean, you look at, the way the tariffs may impact things, all of those things we'll kind of put the unknown in a bucket. And then I think, how do we best evolve with our customers, and making sure that we're bringing them mobility solutions that will help? I think making sure that we are in constant communication. I think meeting in person, we've come to this world of technology and we love Teams, but nothing is better than sitting in front of a customer in person and walking through what do they need and building that relationship to really truly understand their business. And I think, in some respects, some customers, individuals love to be behind the screen, but that personal connection is something that we are founded on and we continue to push to have with our, our people in our organization and our customers for sure.
So, I know we were talking about one of the things we were talking about the other day was the mileage program.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when you look at, obviously procurement is back involved. When you think coming out of COVID, it was, nobody knew what travel was going to do. Then as we go back and talk to finance and talk to our travel, leaders inside organizations and talking about, okay, true mobility. One of the things that's creeped up is mileage reimbursement. And that's not typically a space that has looked at in, air, car, hotel, things like that, rideshare, but it's definitely a creeping expense. So one of the things that we've done is reached out to our partners and said, okay, we need mileage feeds, right? What does that look like? How much are you spending in mileage reimbursement? And when you look at the IRS continues to raise mileage reimbursement year after year. So the challenge with that is if all you're doing is mileage reimbursing, you're going to have an additional line item expense every year because it goes up every year. So one of the things that we've done is really done some analytics for the customer. So what we're looking at is, okay, what is truly like, is that something that you can put some perimeters around and a travel policy around? And what we found is by going through some of their analytics, we've identified some huge savings opportunities. So when you look at a travel policy that says, hey, we'll just reimburse you 70 cents a mile, wonderful if you want to do that, but there could be some cost savings. Example, I'm in Atlanta. So if I drive from Atlanta to Nashville in my own personal car, a customer or my company would reimburse me roughly about 400 and some change for that. When I could turn around and rent a car on just an average program and save my company about 50%. Right, 53, depending on what rate plan I'm on, right? So when you look at that and then you do it, traveler after traveler after traveler, that adds up. So when you look at companies and, I was meeting with a client the other day, they do, a little under $1 million in business. And when we ask for the mileage, they're like, we don't spend that much. It's just to the airport and back. Well, what we found is they spend about 1.5 million in mileage. When you look at our analytics and, obviously there's still going to be people that are mileage reimbursing. But in that case, they were about the savings that we brought back to them was about 20% if they would institute some basic fences around them. So the way companies roll that out is obviously with the new travel policy, establishing a break even. So hey, if you're going over 100 miles round trip in a day, we want you to rent a car. And then two, hey, if you want to go over and you want to personally drive your car, that's totally fine. But we're only going to reimburse you at what the best value is for the company to try and put some fences around just the runaway mileage reimbursement. And that's really what we see in the analytics. The benefit to the company is really one, lost productivity. The average person is driving in the US a 13-year-old vehicle, which obviously is going to cause some concern. The image when they roll up to their client is a huge piece. Risk mitigation is huge. That duty of care, and I've putting them in a car that in a lot of cases has insurance included. It's a 24, 25 model vehicle. We know they're going to get there. We know the recalls have been done. The maintenance has been done. So those are some of the things that, hey, how do we talk to the customer about what's in it for them, and then how do we deal with the traveler, because they don't want to feel like they're losing anything. Those are some of the things that we do. So when you think think about, okay, how do we set ourselves apart? Our network of home city locations is perfect for mileage reimbursement because with all of those home city offices, that's where this is executed out of. So, we're pushing those people into a local enterprise office. They pick up the car, they can go on their merry way, return, and they're good. So that's again, as we sit down and talk about cost savings and what can we do and what do we bring to the table as a mobility provider, that is another piece that a lot of people don't look at. And when we walk them through it, it's very eye opening to even finance because nobody looks at those line item expenses. They just approve them on a one off. But when you look at it aggregated and then by traveler, it's very eye opening on what you see.
So, Heather, you are singing our song. And as a corporate travel management company, that is exactly what we do. So that's why we enjoy it. We love that we have such a great partnership with enterprise because this is exactly when you can bring those synergies together and helping our customers enable them to make the best decisions possible through data and information and everything that's available to them. For us, in our case, it's corporate travel management. We put data in front of them so they can make better decisions in regard to travel, utilizing the travel policies, utilizing the information of, the average ticket, average car rental, our average hotel, and duty of care, making sure that they are safe and secure. And should things go wrong, yeah, last time I checked, things do go wrong. I think we just saw on the news that flight cancellations all over the place. And how do we make sure that we're getting in touch with the right people, that we're in communication, and you're spot on. That's exactly what you're doing as well.
But and you can track them. I think that's one of the things when we talk about, your compliance to utilizing safe harbor. Why are you coming outside of that? Because then now you have no idea where your people are, and really bringing them that data because we can see it on our side. And then here's the people that you need to go after to get them back in compliance.
Yeah, it's great. Like I said, you're singing our song, and I love our partnership, our relationship, because it's exactly where we are too. So, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
What's the average age of a fleet?
Oh, that's a great question. So that has changed dramatically post COVID. So we are back to cycling anywhere from 15 to 30,000 miles. So we have a great partnership with our manufacturers. We're continuing to cycle cars back to normal levels. So that's on our brands across the board. So very excited about that. That was something that was very different during COVID. We hear that a lot from clients that not every rental car company is cycling back to those terms, but we are back in that normal mode for sure.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause I know that changed quite a bit during COVID, and with the chip manufacturers and trying to
Yep.
get the cars out there. I know speaking with others at Enterprise and the industry itself, trying to get cars in the fleet was a real challenge, and it's good to see you're back to your capacity.
For sure. Yeah, that was one of the most challenging times in trying to explain, customers have an expectation that, especially our national car rental customers, that this is going to be, low mileage, well, the challenge is that the manufacturers aren't making vehicles. We had to extend the life of the car. And, making sure that it was clean and our clean car pledge helped with that. But we are so grateful that we are back to cycling on a normal term and it's fantastic.
It's nice to have those days in the rearview mirror right now.
Yes. Yes. Where you're not trying to figure out where to park, 70,000 vehicles at a pop.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, I remember those stories. I think weren't there like, parking lots at, stadiums and places like that, putting the
Yeah,
cars?
so I'm in Atlanta and I was in operations at that time. And our parking lots, if you've ever driven past an enterprise parking lot, there's probably 20 spaces and we have hundreds of cars probably running out of that store. So when they all come back, we actually rented the Atlanta Motor Speedway and had cars. I mean, it looked like a NASCAR race with all the parking. So yes, it was, you know, very, very good times.
Like,
And then if you
so
park them there long enough, the batteries, that you can't figure out, you gotta jump them too and all the things. So we learned a lot during those days.
wow, like I said, it's good. Well, hey, you know what? That's what makes us stronger
Yep,
and figuring these things out and makes us and made certainly a better company, made us all better companies and individuals.
exactly. The
We made
storms
it.
always calm.
That is true. That's true. I'm not gonna ask you that question. What's your prediction for what's coming next? Because that's nobody has that crystal ball. Really, actually, no. Yeah, we all have our disaster plans. We have our disaster plans and internally, externally, and how we're gonna deal with things. Phew. I look back, the past the years I've been in this industry. And, we've been through economic downturn, we've been through crisis, we've been through volcanic ash issues, and some of the things you can never predict. And, but yeah, COVID was by far, that was one, oh yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We'll be over this thing in 2 weeks and get through this thing. And we've been through them all. And this can't be any different. But yeah, it certainly was.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. So what does growth look like? What are the growth strategies for enterprise?
Yeah, I think when you look at all of our lines of business, and I think, one of the things that we're doing is kind of walking through customers of all of their mobility needs. And that is where some of that growth is coming from. So if you look at, not only just national and enterprise, which are the two brands that most customers are the most familiar with, but, we have a fleet division, we have a truck rental division, we have a commute division. We have an exotic division, but those other divisions in the company are growing really, really well. And we feel like, hey, we can talk to our customers about that. So when you look at, where is enterprise going to grow? It's in multiple mobility spaces, is going to our clients and saying, okay, do you guys actually own fleet? Do you have truck rental? And going through some of that data, because again, sometimes our travel manager or our travel buyer is very different than, maybe the transportation leasing fleet person. So making sure that we bring up all of the things that we do, not just the ones that they're most familiar with, which are national and enterprise. So our goal is obviously to keep listening to customers. And, people ask, well, what's next? Right? What else are you guys going to do? I'm like, you know what? We're going to just continue to listen to the customers. Our leaders have their ear to the ground. We communicate up a lot from the field of saying, hey, this is what customers are saying. Do I have a crystal ball on what's going to happen next? No, but I do know with Chrissy at the helm and us continuing to focus on engaging our own customers and our employees, we're going to continue to evolve into even a larger mobility provider for sure.
So I want to talk about two of the areas. Is commute and also exotic. Exotic one was a fun one. Commute. Can you talk a little bit about commute?
Yeah, so I would explain to commute as a carpool on steroids, right? That's the easiest way to explain it to our customer because they get it. But one of the things that a lot of people, especially any metro area or challenge with, is traffic. And is we've come back from COVID, traffic is back to a disaster. So when you look at what commute does, it allows us to come in, work with the company, and we actually map employees and we allow them to kind of share a vehicle, whether that's an SUV all the way up to a 15, passenger van, and they essentially use that to commute in and out. We provide the car, we provide the insurance. There's a lot of flexibility instead of having, we have some because of the hybrid work schedule. We've got some programs for that too, where they're buying a seat certain days. And then in a lot of different areas, there's federal money or state money helping to reduce the cost of those. So depending on which area of the country you're in, because it's a high congested area, there's federal dollars that are coming in to help reduce the cost of those vans. In some cases, employers, because their biggest challenge is keeping employees. And if I'm in one of those high congested areas, the number one reason why a lot of people leave is commute time. So if this helps the employer keep those employees, in some cases, those employers are also helping buy that van down. And we give, a lot of them give special parking. So it alleviates a lot of constraints for the employer of, hey, how do I keep people? Maybe they've got a parking congestion problem as they've brought people back to work, and commute's a wonderful solution for them.
I like it. I like it. Okay, so you're not getting into the scooter business, right?
I would never say never on anything. If you asked me like years ago if we would be doing, exotics or when I first started, all we had was enterprise rent a car. Right. And we started with trucks. So we just keep evolving. And then we bought National and Alamo. So I would never say, Chrissy is an innovator. And if you've been around her in any amount of time or listen to her, she is high energy, super innovative. So I would never say anything is off the table.
Yeah, I was out in Chicago visiting my son and our new grandson, and
Congrats.
last week. Thank you. And he's in town, and there's scooters everywhere. That's how everybody gets around.
Yep.
You see all the different brands. So I was thinking to myself, I wonder if Enterprise is ever going to come out with this. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
We'll
It was
see.
pretty cool.
Yes.
So I do want to come back to the exotic. I'll tell you one quick story. A number of years ago, my wife and I are on our anniversary in London. And so we had an enterprise rental set up. So we were taking the transportation to the rental location. And we were coming up to the location, and there right next to it was the exotic. And I looked at it and I said, ooh, this could be good. And I looked at her, I looked at the car, I looked at her again. This is our anniversary. Let, let's stretch just a little bit. She said, "All right, go for it." So I went in there, and these guys were great. They were great, and they were more than willing to help and get me in that car. So yeah, I drove away with this incredibly beautiful black Jaguar,
Love it.
and I think I took more videos and pictures of the car than I did of us on our anniversary, but it was
That's okay.
it's okay. We still laugh about it, and I even took a video. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna start it up, and you do a video when the car starts up, so you can hear the roar of the engine in the back." So
I love it. I love it.
yeah. So anyway, getting back to business here, what inspired you to get into a leadership position in an enterprise?
I love people. I absolutely love people. And I think, as you work with customers and what you can do for, obviously, if you didn't want to lead people in this organization, you certainly don't have to. But I think the yearning to help and lead and develop future leaders was something that was ingrained to me as, probably when I was little with my mom being in the Navy, watching her lead and following in her footsteps to help lead and be a humble servant leader was something that I really enjoy doing. I love people and I love watching them succeed. I think if you add like that is the number I could, sales is fantastic, but watching people achieve a goal and watching them grow is something that is just my passion. So yeah, that's how I got into leadership. And then I just
That's
kept taking more and more roles.
that's fantastic. So with that, any good leader always accepts great advice or
Yep,
advice,
for
period,
sure.
but always great advice. So what would you say is the best piece of advice that you've received along the way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think learning to be a servant leader, that you are not a leader by title. You need to serve the people because that is a huge responsibility because they're putting their trust in you to get them to where they want to be is a big piece and just staying humble to that and then making sure you're just an amazing listener. I think especially in today's world, you have to be able to listen and really seek to understand as you try and get people to where they need to be because every person is different, their personalities are different. But using, two ears versus your one mouth is that you were given two for a reason. And those are the things that I've tried to always, hey, listen to your people and just genuinely care and get to know them. Those are key pieces that's going to help you as you kind of push people to where they want to go.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Somebody coming into enterprise, what would your advice be to them coming into the company?
Yeah, so funny, I did new hire training yesterday, right? And
Huh,
we talk about performance and image and enthusiasm, right? Those are the things that, you need to do. But I always say, this is an amazing organization. And you have and these poor souls they've been here a month. So they don't understand the scope and size of what they've just entered into. But I always say, one, you need to come with effort and enthusiasm every day, right? Because your attitude is contagious. You need to find a mentor, right? Anytime you're journeying a career, you need kind of a Sherpa to help you along the way, as I call it, right? If you're going to climb a mountain, you're not going to try and do that yourself, I hope. And then two, just making sure that you network that organization because there's so many people. The wonderful thing about enterprise is everybody's done your job. So if you need help and you're struggling, there's someone here to help you. And I think that's what makes our organization a little bit different, that everybody is so eager to help. And we are like one big, happy team, family organization.
So Heather, what don't you do at enterprise? I mean, it seems like
Or
you've
what
done
haven't I
everything.
done? Well, I don't do legal, even though I think I could, they won't let me do that anymore. And I definitely don't do IT. So those
Okay,
things are off. But you know what? I always say good leaders know somebody that's in those departments. So the things that
there
I
you
don't
go.
know, you outsource. Yeah.
Perfect.
But you
Perfect.
know what? I'll still wash the cars. Again, we're one big family. And if that's where my hands are needed, I'll do it.
And that's how companies work. That's how
Yep.
good companies work. So, any last final words?
No, we just, we are so grateful to be on this with you. We appreciate the partnership we have. Obviously, we're grateful to customers that we serve. And if there's an opportunity where you want to learn more, we obviously are here to help any of your clients or customers as we go forward.
Fantastic. As I mentioned earlier, we love our partnership. We love our relationship because we look at our companies being very similar, and that we do sing the same song. And our clients come first. Our clients come first, and we're there to make sure they have the information so they can make the best decisions. And that's how you speak. That's how your company speaks.
Okay, so Jay, since you brought up your song, what would be your go-to song? I know we didn't practice this.
Wow, you really caught me off guard. You really caught me off guard on that one. Well, I will tell you one of my favorite bands of all time is The Who.
Okay.
All right. So what's my go-to song? My go-to song is Eminence Front, which I think is just it's the song of all songs. There's a lot of story behind that, but I don't know. Is that what you're expecting when I said that?
I just wanted to, hey, I always think like, okay, we're singing the song. I always, hey, what pumps you up in the morning? What's your go-to song? That piece. Yeah. We like to have
So
fun around here. We have a
yeah.
playlist, right?
So okay, yours is?
Van Halen, which I know is, a little bit old schooler. But
Oh,
the
Who as
song Right
well.
Now, and if you remember MTV, when MTV used to watch video, like they played videos, it was the
Yeah.
the fighter jets, which were,
Yeah.
amazing to me. So the song Right Now by Van Halen, you could pipe that through and I would just, it's go time.
So, okay, interesting you went that direction because that song came out more or less the same time I was in the Navy. And I was on a carrier, and that song was playing a lot. It was playing a lot when we were launching planes, and,
Yep.
yeah, so that's funny. It's how you connect that all together.
Yep. We go back to where
Heather
we started, I guess.
exactly. Heather, thank you so much for being with us today. This has really been a pleasure and a joy to chat with you and learned a lot, and I hope everyone else out there learned as well. But Heather Collins, Vice President of Enterprise Mobility, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you.
Thank you.